Today I'm talking about episode 20, which is Do No Harm. This is Jack's third flashback episode at this point. And it's just fitting that he would be the first character to get three flashbacks because he is the main character after all. But yeah, this is another really good episode, another really strong episode. And what I think is probably most impressive about this episode is just how they managed to do so much. Like I think it's amazing how they can do so much in one 42-minute episode. Uh, you know, and it's all really significant. You get three. I mean, okay, not all significant, right? But I mean, you managed to have three island storylines going on, and the flashback story as well. You have uh, the situation with Boone. You have Claire giving birth. You have Shannon and Saeed going on their little date, which again is not as significant. But I guess they just needed Shannon to not be there for any of the Boone stuff. And then you have the whole flashback story of Jack's wedding. That's so much to do in one episode, and it's done. It's done very well. Everybody, for the most part, everybody has their moment or chance to do something in the episode. I mean, Sawyer's not in it a whole lot, but I guess you gotta make some sacrifices somewhere. You have Sun involved with the Boone. Sun's kind of like Jack's, nurse almost or whatever in this situation. You got Jen and Charlie and Kate helping Claire give birth. Michael's there when Jack wants to chop off Boone's leg. He's helping him with that. So I mean, not much for like Hurley's involved a little bit. They make reference to Hurley passing out when he sees blood, but he doesn't in this instance. But yeah, and I mean the flashbacks aren't really anything special. I mean, if there was any episode that could have not had a flashback this season, it would have been this episode because there's just so much going on that you almost don't really need flashbacks. But the flashbacks were nice. It's always good to get more information and more background. I Something that I noticed that they maybe kind of stopped doing this later on, but they do occasionally do it in season one. I feel like sometimes the flashback stories are like the characters are actually remembering these times. I almost feel like when Jack is trying to save Boone's life, that he's remembering his wedding, right? I mean, like maybe he's kind of going to a happy place a little bit here. Uh, but I feel like that. I feel like that might be true for a couple of these episodes in season one. I feel like they might abandon that in season two, and they definitely abandoned it in season three. When the flashbacks in season three start to be kind of a little meaningless and pointless, but yeah. So I mean, the flashbacks. It's just Jack getting married. You get Scott Farkus from Christmas Story plays his best man, his childhood friend Mark Silverman. Uh, then of course, you get to see his dad as well. I mean, it's just it's nothing really special or important, but I guess what what they do throughout these flashbacks for Jack is interesting, kind of this telling this story of this relationship that he has. Kind of jumbled around a little bit. Because here we see them get married, and then next, which is, I believe, Man of Science, Man of Faith, we see him like meet Sarah and Desmond. Impactful couple days for him. And then later on, I don't know the specific episode. It's not a great flashback, but like their relationship kind of falling apart, where he meets this like Italian girl or whatever, and tries to save her father. Like it's not. I feel like it's towards the end of season 2. And then I know in the beginning of season 3, we get Tale of Two Cities, I believe, is Jack, like after that relationship is done, and he knows like someone else is now dating his ex-wife, and he doesn't like that. Then you get Stranger in Strangeland, which is always great. But so yeah, they're doing this interesting little telling of Jack's relationship throughout these flashbacks episode, which is fine. I have no problem. I have no problem with that. I mean, Julie Bowen is good as well. She plays Sarah, Jack's soon-to-be ex-wife, I suppose you could call it that. But yeah, I mean, I struggle to find anything like insightful or impactful to say about this episode besides that it's really good and that a lot happens in it. There's a lot of significant stuff with the birth of Aaron and the death of Boone, that kind of circle of life cycle right there. The fact that Boone dies, Aaron's born at the same time. Locke is absent as well. I should point that out there. That's a whole big thing, a point of contention for Jack, is that Locke is not there. He ran off. I mean, he lied about what happened to Boone and then ran off. I kind of don't think that Boone was savable. I don't know how much help Locke telling Jack the whole truth would have been. But still, I think this is like the nail in the coffin between Jack and Locke. Like he never cares for Locke again after this point until it's too late. Until Locke's dead, then he starts liking Locke a little bit more once he realizes Locke was pretty much right about almost everything. So yeah. And of course, the death of Boone is such an impactful, moment on the show. I guess maybe not the moment itself, but Boone's death itself has a huge impact. I feel like that it's a real turning point for the show and for a lot of these characters. It's one of the 2 biggest deaths on the show, in my opinion. It's Boone and Charlie. Boone, Charlie, and then I guess Boone, Charlie, Juliet, and Jack. Or I guess Sun and Jin. I'll throw them in there as well. Because you don't really get a whole lot of time to sit with Sun and Jin's death, honestly. That's just because season 6 has such a fast pace. But Boone and Charlie are huge, like, turning point deaths in this show. Charlie, because, all these people got to know Charlie and liked Charlie, so that hit him in that regard. But I think Boone's death hit everybody more in the fact that it was just, like, the first person to die, like that first real significant loss that they suffered, if you exclude Joanna and Scott/Steve, whichever one. I'll have to talk about them at some point in this. But I mean, this is obviously something that affects a lot of the people. If you specifically Shannon, obviously, Locke, Jack, of course. Jack, honestly, Jack more than anyone else is going to take the hardest hit with this, because that's just like his character, who he is, and a fault of him that he's going to take this so hard and really never let this go, honestly. Until Libby, and he's got something else to never let go. And then Juliet. But, so yeah. So up next, I believe it is The Greater Good, which is a Sayid episode. And it's an obvious transition into this. I don't know specifically Sayid, because we don't see much of Sayid in this episode, but it is the obvious of, one, you gotta bury Boone, and Jack is on the warpath for Locke, trying to put this all on him, and the truth of that, and Shannon comes on the warpath as well. It's just obviously setting up characters still dealing with the death of Boone, but yeah. So I mean, this another really good episode. A lot happened. Again, I wish I had more insightful and meaningful things to say about this. Besides that, it's just an incredibly impressive episode with how much they're able to do. So I guess that's all I've got to say, really. But yeah, so Greater Good up next, and I will see you guys then.